In this section of Matthew, chapters 15 through 21, we're going to see Jesus really zero in on his life's purpose and goal, which was to go to Jerusalem and die. He tells this to his disciples in chapter 16 when he's in a city called Caesarea Philippi. It was as far north as he was ever going to go. He tells them, here's the plan. We're going to go back down to Jerusalem, go back down south, and I'm going to die in the hands of the religious leaders. And you can read about how the disciples responded to that. The rest of these chapters, you see him approach Jerusalem. All the cities and areas get closer and closer to Judea and Jerusalem. And finally in chapter 21, Jesus enters into the city, goes right to the temple where all the religious leaders were, and causes a ruckus, basically saying this is not right. You've turned this place into a place to make money, but this is really supposed to be a place where people can know about God's love. There's a theme developing in this section, and you can see it in the way that Jesus responds to people. If you come to Jesus with your life together and everything in order, very confident, Jesus tends to respond to that with a stern or harsh teaching, a cold shoulder. But if you come to Jesus broken, desperate, crying for help, you see Jesus respond with compassion. So let me give you 3 examples. In chapter 15, the Pharisees are talking with Jesus about cleanliness. He gives a very strict teaching. He says it's not just about cleaning your hands, it's about having a pure heart, pure thoughts. It's about avoiding theft and adultery. And really you get to the end of that and you think, none of us are clean. And yet in the very next scene, there's a woman who's broken, a woman who would have been considered unclean in her day. She's desperate for Jesus, and he has compassion on her and heals her daughter. In chapter 19, Jesus is again rough with the Pharisees and very stern about a teaching on divorce. He's also very stern with the rich young ruler who had his life all together. He obeyed all the commands, had enough money to offer all the right sacrifices, and Jesus deals with them both fairly roughly, yet in the middle there, Jesus responds warmly to little children who have absolutely nothing to offer. In chapter 20, James and John, their mother actually, comes to Jesus and says, would you bless my 2 sons? Would you give them places of authority and power in your kingdom? And Jesus doesn't really respond to that very well, or at least the way that they would have liked. But in the very next scene, there's 2 men, again, who come to Jesus, but they're desperate. They're blind. They're crying out for help. And it says again, Jesus has compassion on them, and he healed them. This is important for us to understand because it's good news. It means you don't have to approach Jesus with everything in your life together. You don't have to put on a show. You don't have to pretend like you've got all the answers. You can come to Jesus with your brokenness, with your failures, your corruption. Come to Jesus with the darkest parts of your life, your frustrations, your anger. And when you come to Jesus like that, you can begin to see and experience his warmth and love and grace. So I just encourage you, before you start reading, take a moment, just do an evaluation of your life and your heart right now. Be honest with yourself, be honest with the shortcomings, your selfishness, the darkness, be honest with what frustrates you, your brokenness in life. And then I would encourage you from that heart and from that place of humility to start reading this section and begin to experience the warmth, the grace, the love, the mercy that Jesus has to offer for our lives.